French Parliament designates Wagner a terrorist group.
Here's a summary of the article.
Paris. France's National Assembly voted Tuesday to designate Russia's paramilitary Wagner Group as a terrorist entity. The resolution calls on the European Union to register Wagner on the EU list of terrorist groups. The Russian mercenary group has already faced several rounds of sanctions from the European Union. In April 2022, the EU put Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin on a list of sanctioned individuals in the context of the war in Ukraine, and in April this year Wagner was added to another list of sanctioned entities due to their active participation in Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Putting Wagner on the EU list of terror organizations would deal yet another blow to the group, argues Haddad, as it would reinforce systematic tools against the organization, meaning anyone linked to Wagner could be prosecuted on terrorism charges. France has come under pressure from the Wagner Group in Africa, where Paris's influence is waning. In January, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said the Wagner Group had made France its #1 enemy in Africa, and was targeting French interests.
This post received a score of 32,000, with an upvote ratio of 94%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Greater than all lawmakers present in Parliament? 331 in total? Voted in favor of the resolution, which is non-binding. The resolution calls on the European Union to register Wagner on the EU list of terrorist groups. France is joining Lithuania, the 14th of March 2023, and Estonia, the 18th of October 2022. Hope other European countries, as well as the EU itself, will follow up.
Yep, let's get to the everyone except Hungary situation we're used to.
Does the EU really need Hungary? How is that country even in the EU? Maybe they should kick him out.
Well, it is the former half of the country that really got the ball rolling on WW1, so despite its anti-European prime minister, it still counts.
Yeah, lol, they might be a shitty member state, but they are very, very European.
They can be European and not be in the EU. The problem is that when Orban says the pro-Putin things that he says, the headline on Russian media is, EU member supports Russia, and the underlying message is that Russia isn't isolated.
Adding it to the EU list would affect all the stakeholders, the banks, that make its activity possible, so who in the EU would opposite this? That would be interesting to know, and why.
Almost definitely Italy and Switzerland, which are both heavily dependent on Russian markets to sell goods and services respectively. Luxembourg potentially, due to its nature as a tax haven for the wealthy to park their assets, as much as the EU refuses to acknowledge its role as such.
Greater than heavily dependent, only 1.5% of Italian exports go to Russia.
Yeah, weird. Russia isn't in the top 20 of Italy's export list per country. I don't really know where he got heavily dependent on lol.
The Russian government should also be designated a terrorist organization. Already done at EU level. European Parliament declares Russia to be a state sponsor of terrorism, the 23rd of November 2022.
So state sponsor of terrorism, check. Has oil, check. Needs democracy, check. Bald eagles intensify.
You forgot, doesn't have nukes.
We're gonna feel really dumb when we find out that Russia sold them all off, and that's how other countries got nukes.
CIA really dropped that ball.
Atomic Energy Agency and Department of State.
As should any civilized country.
A decade ago.
7 decades ago.
Before it existed.
So does this mean French military forces in Africa will start directly targeting Wagner forces? That could be spicy.
That's going to complicate their working relationship in Africa.
It means Wagner bases in Africa will suddenly get airstriked without warning and then mopped up.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.